yesterday we were over in Purdue doing college visits for my son. So they've got an
Oh,
engineering program over there that's pretty impressive.
oh,
So, well, we are now live on Facebook and on YouTube. Um, Anybody that's jumping on Facebook, give me a shout. Let me know that you can hear us okay.
okay.
And how's your week been, David?
Boy, we're extremely busy. And, if I'm busy, that means most of the world is. There's certainly exceptions. But holy cow, the last 2 weeks, my daughter's been working me to death.
It's a good problem.
And yeah, well, I always tell people that call me with that and say, well, I'm booked up for 4 weeks or 5 weeks. I always say, think about the opposite problem.
Yeah,
That's discouraging. And don't remember many times that has happened in my individual situation, but wow, it is it's overwhelming, and it's a challenge to today's world has a little bit, just a little touch of what COVID had as far as getting supplies.
yeah,
Uh, Not just the strikes on the coast, but just in general, we're ordering way ahead of time, and we're keeping a lot of stock. And we're just you just really have to be on top of that.
yeah. There's definitely keeping that stock in hand, and it's just like you want to keep toilet paper on hand. You don't want to wait until you're out when you need some, and
No,
you can't do your
and
job.
and you better be able to do 1,500 sump lids, because you don't know when you're going to get your next order of plastic,
That's
that
right.
kind of thing. And
Yeah,
I think we order 20 to 40,000 manometer bases at a time, that we own the molds and we have them made. But I'm like, give me 40,000 at a time.
yeah,
But
yeah. It's
anyway,
only money.
yeah, right, right. That's a funny thing when I see that part of it. It's a shock to my life. Do you want to mention next week's special guest now, or did you want to wait till later?
I think we'll wait until a little bit later, and
Okay.
it'll be our big surprise ending. Good reason for people to really. I we've got a lot to talk about, but yeah, we'll talk about what's going on next week here and what that topic is, or not. We
Okay.
can just talk about it now
Okay.
while people are logging in.
Sure.
So
Sure.
this at the top of the people that are replaying this, they can see this, but yeah, for next week, um, I talked to Jim Dunn and his sons out at the ARST at the IEA symposium, and they have created this. It is called the Volcano Drain, and I haven't even taken this one out of the plastic, but here's your unboxing. It's not a whole lot of unboxing because it's just a sleeve, but they're going to be talking about this next week. I shot a little video of them, and they're going to come on, and you can kind of see the product here. And they're going to go, if you're used to using Drangers, they're going to show you how this is used, the cool things about it, what's unique about it, and the biggest thing that they're going to talk about is just the fact that your speed of use, as well as the amount of leakage, of air leak in this product compared to ones that you're used to. So it is very cool. It gives you the option of going in multiple sizes. So it's a one stop shop for doing whether it be sumps or drains or whatever you need to do.
Well, and just to add one thing, Ben, I've been working with Jim Dunn. It seems like well over a year, because they've been working on this and trying to improve it, doing a lot of things to it. But the other thing I would add is I'm pretty excited about it. I made him take a long time to convince me, but it's a good product, and it's a one-stop shop. In other words, this device is going to fix any situation you're in with a untracked drain or a sump lid, or even probably a window well for sure. But it is so versatile, and he'll prove that next week. And he has a video out there that also proves the effectiveness of it, both with flow and both with resistance to leakage. So we're pretty excited about him. Like I say, I've been working with Jim Dunn on this for, I don't know, maybe a year, at least in communication, not working with him. Let me call communication.
Yeah.
And I've made as many suggestions as I could based on being a distributor and based on having, 28 years, 30 years in the industry. So anyway, we're all excited about it, and certainly he is. Jim Dunn's excited about it, and we intend to carry it. And I believe it may be our only drain device very, very soon after we start carrying it because it is that versatile.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So tune in next week. We're giving them the time to go through this, to talk about it, to see exactly how it works, and they showed it to me, down in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and I really thought it was something pretty impressive. So yeah, absolutely. Make sure you tune in for that, and yeah. Hey, there's Jim. He's jumping on. So, Jim, we hyped you up for next week. So we got next week. Him and the boys will jump on and show us about that. So, we got a few people on the Zoom. We got a few people over on Facebook. I don't know if anybody's jumping on YouTube yet, but I'm gonna open that up and just
Jim,
see if
he's
anybody's
jumping
watching. And yeah, we got somebody on YouTube, but. If you got anything exciting happening in your business right now, it has felt like forever that we have kind of opened it up, and we want to talk to people and see what is going on with you guys, and what is what's new, what's exciting, what are the things that you're doing. So if anybody's got something to share, or if you've got challenges that you're that you're wanting to talk about. The floor is yours. We like to make this an opportunity for sharing and helping and lifting each other up. So if anybody's got anything, you can throw it in the comments over on Facebook. You can throw it, if you're in the Zoom, just a few of us over here. But anybody got anything exciting going on? Jim's on there.
I know Jordan's still working on stuff. He's really been focusing on the muffler situation.
For the volcanoes, or what's the muffler for?
Just noise suppression. We are, when we went to the Orlando show, Daryl was saying that he's got a large demand for mufflers, and Jordan's been working on a muffler design for 6 months, and we've been experimenting with them. So he's still working on that. I think maybe that'll be his next project. I don't know. But he's excited. He's turned into a little mini engineer,
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure. Well, we're anxious to have you guys talk about your volcano drain next week. You might not have caught all of that, but we just sort of put a teaser out there for people, letting them know that you would be the guest speaker.
Well, it's kind of funny because we've got 2 distributors that wanted, in addition to Festa, we got 2 distributors that contacted us after the show that want to carry it as well. And that's not counting you, David.
Well, I was telling people, I think you and I have been communicating and discussing this for a year.
Yeah.
So
it took a while, but
yeah.
Next time, if you want to come up with I tried to get Jordan to put it out sooner, but he insisted on refining it and refining it and refining it and making one that David was going to like, which is the small one. So, I'm kind of glad he did that because he really did add a few refinements to it that made it even better.
Yes. I believe this is going to be a one-shot drain that I won't have to carry 8 different varieties anymore, because this drain we don't need to spoil next week, but I believe this drain is versatile enough to cover almost any situation that I've ever encountered. And like I said, it took me a while, but you sure got me convinced now.
Well, between the 2 of us, David, we got a ton of experience. So, I've been in it 36, 37 years and tens of thousands of systems. So I know what works and what doesn't. And I was really impressed with Jordan's determination to make all these refinements, and every one of them has improved it. So
Excellent.
we'll
Excellent.
see.
Very cool.
Excellent. Is he for sale, by the way? I'm looking for a guy like him. Just kidding. Just kidding.
I'm keeping him.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll bet you are. So
Nice.
Ben wanted to talk about what do you call it, Ben? The 10 most
Well,
important
I was
items
gonna do the David Letterman. I was gonna put your face on Letterman's body, the top 10, top 10 things a mitigator needs. That was, we kind of went back and forth this week. David and I were talking about what are the things that, either somebody has been in this business, for 6 months or 6 years or 36 years. What are the things that David, always kept in his truck, that always had available, or the things that make the job easier, faster, quicker. And so that's the topic for today. What are the 10 things that every mitigator needs? So, David, I hope you got 10, because I've been hyping you up for 10, maybe 11.
Well, it's tough because you can get drifted away, and we probably, as Jim knows, I bet we manufacture 20 items ourselves. And so I wanted to include all them 20 if I was going to take a minute to sell us. But yes, I have 10 different items here that I think will at least maybe educate some people in terms of what's available and what's handy. And but I did want to take a little time to mention to people in North Carolina and other places what a sad deal going on. So I have some customers in North Carolina and as well as Georgia, and have had some conversations with them, and most of them, or even all of them, didn't get hit as directly as some of the state did, and it's devastating. And everything on the TV, I don't believe is exaggerated based on my discussions with them also. But anyway, hang in there, North Carolina. And I want to mention that just a little bit later, because of one of my customers from North Carolina that called today with a unique problem that could be based on the storm or could be caused by the storm. So I also wanted to mention before we got started that a lot of people don't realize that we're a full service supplier as well as a manufacturer. But I think people are kind of used in this world to buying things from storefronts. We buy things from people that don't have a dang thing in their repertoire, but they have an easy way to get those things. And that's not us. You call us and boy, there's a 99% chance that it's going to be in-house and you're going to get it sent out today, and you're going to send out at the most reasonable cost we can possibly send it to you. Lynn, my daughter, she's gotten to be an expert at that portion, packaging and figuring the cost of shipping. So anyway, I think it's important that people realize we're not a storefront. We're full service, and like Jim said, a lot of radon experience. So I'm pretty good at knowing what works and what doesn't work. And so I think we're going to start with fans. I mean, the thing that we all know is you can't do a job without a fan. And so I've got 2 fans back here, so this will be a little difficult in our environment, but I think we have 13 or 14 varieties of fans. And Jim mentioned Daryl earlier down, and Daryl is Daryl Festa. So in case you guys don't know his first name, but this is the most popular fan. It's called the Maverick.
Hey, David.
Of course. Yes.
Can you tilt your camera down just a little bit? Just
tilt my camera down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Better.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's the tough part, because I'm not in front of the camera where you're filming a video, Ben.
There you go.
But anyway, this is the most popular fan, and most of you are aware of the fans, but I wanted to mention that there's probably 13 or 14 varieties of fans that we carry. And there's a fan for every need. And for those people that think one fan serves all needs, they need to get a little more educated, because I don't believe it's true. And along with fans, we carry flow charts that also tell the value of each fan. Ben has them on our website. I always tell people, if you want one, I'll send it to you, but be sure and take a picture and keep it on your phone so you're not digging it out of the glove box every time you want to refer to it. But not everybody in this world is a believer, including some of the teachers, about the value of fan flow or picking the right fan, but I sure am, and it's been successful for me. So this fan flow chart will help you at least know the flow you're getting from the product you're using. And I have to refer to my notes, but with fans, I kind of cheated, Ben. Some of these are double items, but fans and fern coats. So you can't do a fan without a fern coat, a fern coat, and a manometer for that matter. But we carry Fernco brand, and I tried to carry some of the other brand names, especially the ones that you seem to be able to get real reasonable, but don't come from America. And they look like a good product, and I tried to do it to be competitive, but holy cow, you guys were about ready to hang me, so I gave up on that right away because it was not successful. And Fernco, it's funny because Fernco is such a long-lasting company. They're in Michigan. They're such a long-lasting company that no one refers to rubber couplings as rubber couplings. No matter where it's bought from, it's still called a Fernco, whether it's a Fernco brand or not. That's how popular and how long-lasting Fernco is. So we carry nothing about the Fernco brand. I also think it's a funny, unique fact. Fernco's not made from rubber. It's made from PVC. Jim, that might even surprise you. But I didn't know that until the Fernco people told me. But Fernco is not made from rubber. And that may be one of the reasons why it seems more rigid than the rest of them. We're such a large purchaser of Fernco that it even surprises Fernco. But the reason I'm saying that is price. For instance, just as an example, you can buy this black 4x3 Fernco for $4.90. And that's just unheard of in today's world. And you can go to Home Depot or Menards and get it for about twice that. So it's our purchasing power has allowed us to pass this on, just pallets and pallets of these things we order. So I thought I would combine the fan and the Fernco, but I also want everybody to know I only carry Festa fans. It's a fan I believe in. It's a fan I used for many years. Used it for many years when I did have the mitigation company that I recently sold. But I only carry them. I think it's important that I say that. And I want to talk about one fan a little bit because we need to spend a little time on fans. But this is the most powerful fan in the repertoire for radon. It has 6-inch inlet and outlet. This is called a Legend Extreme. And if you look on your flow chart, if you have one, I always jokingly say this fan could knock a flock of geese out of formation. And I'm not sure that's true, but it is a way of telling you this fan's capable of 570 cubic foot of air a minute without resistance. That's a lot of air. And it would certainly blow the hair off the top of me and Ben's head. So it is an extremely powerful fan. And just as an example, we've used it. We used it in an old hospital we did and had great success. But recently, the person I sold my company to was my longstanding foreman, been with me 15 years. But he recently did a building at a university that was an older building that had been, it was sort of a historical thing. But anyway, he started using these Legend Extremes and just created a situation where he built 4 systems based on the design of the building and installed these Legend Extremes, got them up and running, and then went back into the building to do his caulking and some of his other details. And every time his guy caulked a crack and moved to the next crack, the caulk didn't exist anymore in the crack before him. Now, this is the truth. And he said, well, wait a minute. I caulked that crack. What happened here? And the bottom line is this fan is so powerful, it was sucking the caulk down all the cracks. And they literally had to shut the system off for a day so that all the caulk they put in the cracks would dry and not get sucked down into the substrate material. So believe that one. That's the truth. That's how powerful this fan is. And it's bailed us out of some commercial jobs. I don't really recommend it for residential work, and it must have a 4-inch fan or 4-inch piping, I mean. But it is a valuable fan when you do anything remotely larger than a home. And I only mention that to show you the variety of fans that's out there. And so anyway, so that's our
And I
fan.
was
That's
also
number
going to say,
one.
everybody, if you've got questions as Dave's going through this, feel free to chime in, ask questions. I'm keeping an eye on the YouTube page and on the Facebook page to see if anybody has anything. But yeah, if you've got questions, jump in for sure.
Yeah, yeah, good. Because fans are the thing that create the most questions, but feel free to ask them online if you want to, because the story is if you have a question, there's another 6 people that aren't asking it with the same question. And so once again, great prices on Fernco, only Fernco brand, only Festa fans, flow charts, great variety of fans that we carry with Festa. We've always got 1,500 fans on hand, just to give you an idea of the fact that we are full service. We don't let that get low. So the next issue number two, or the next item number two, is a thing you guys know I'm so proud of, is manometers. And we started manufacturing manometers 8 years ago, and I just had it in my mind. I knew from inside sources that bigger fans were going to come, and the other manometers out there would only go to about 4 inches of water column. And I knew that there was going to be some new fans created in the next year that were going to go to 5, and there wouldn't be a manometer that could handle it if that pressure was achieved. So I said, well, now we can fix that. Let's get some molds going, and let's create a manometer that will read 6 inches of water column. And so we're real proud of it. And then when we got done, we found out right away that you guys are so dang picky. One guy said, well, I would buy your manometers, but I like green and you don't have it. Or I only like blue, or I only like red. And I'm like, come on, guys, let me just carry all 3. And so they didn't get that excuse anymore. But so we carry red, green, and blue so that everybody's happy, and 6 inches of water column. And I'm also proud of the fact that we've been manufacturing these for over 8 years now, and have never raised a price. We do it in-house. We keep the cost of production as low as we can. And it's a pretty tough thing to say, but we have never had to raise the price on manometers. And sometimes I'm reluctant to say that because you wonder with cost, but proud to be able to say that, and proud to be able to say that we believe that we manufacture the best manometer in the world, including the pack for labels. We think we make the best labels that are the highest quality, the most water resistant. We make a great what's called the customer information portion. It tells the customer what to look for in a manometer. It tells them a lot about radon. And then when you get inside of that, you get a way to attach it to the pipe. But the big thing I want to talk about is, look at these labels. Is that visible? That's a lot of labels, and they're pretty high quality labels. I don't know of anyone that says, hey, you don't give me enough labels. As a matter of fact, I have people saying, I got so many extra labels in my truck. Why don't you send me a manometer without labels? So we're happy to be able to provide the best manometer at a very competitive price. If you buy groups of 50, it's $7. Groups of less than that are $7.50. That's a pretty good price in this world. So that covers number two. And I always tell people, if you don't have a fan and manometer, you shouldn't be showing up at that house, because you can't build a system without both of those things.
David, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
It's Jim. What the liquid makeup of the manometers is what? What is that liquid makeup?
The liquid makeup is a specific weight. It has to be an extremely specific weight of refrigeration oil. And then we put dye in the refrigeration oil. But if you don't get the right weight, they won't be accurate. And the way we test accuracy, Jim, is I have a setup that I can, it's basically a base with a 4-inch pipe and a gate valve. And then I have a magna helic and a mini helic mounted to this base. And I can put any fan I want to on the top of this base, and I can adjust the airflow with the gate valve. And I want to see the liquid manometer match the magna helic and the mini helic. So that's why we quality test the item. But if you don't know the details of what weight oil to use, and there's multitudes of weights, the dye is the easy part, because believe it or not, I can make a gallon of green oil to fill manometers, and it only takes 3 drops of dye to change the color from almost a clear to a green. So that's the easy part, but it is to me. And then on top of that, the product that we use that fills the manometer, the device we use is actually a medical device and is very precise. And when you push the lever to inject the mold into the clear tube, it injects the exact right amount. And then we have a secondary check system for that, because occasionally we'll see one that says, whoa, that one produced too much or too little liquid, because we want the 0, 0 to be at a certain height on the entire thing. And the back plate's adjustable, but we make ours fairly difficult to adjust, because I've used manometers in the past that have been so easy to adjust that sometimes a consumer bumps it even. And you know what I'm talking about, Jim. I know you do for sure. But anyway, we're really proud. We spent some time on manometers because I was able to look at what I liked and what I disliked about the ones I'd used for 20 years or 18 years. Let's see, it'd be, yeah, 18 or 20 years. So I get the advantage of that, like a lot of us do here, by saying, here's what I really liked about the manometer I've been using, but here's what I didn't like. I didn't like that the consumer could walk by it and bump it, and it changed the manometer reading so much that the consumer would call me and say, well, that little mark you left for me was at 1 inch and now it's at 2. So the first thing I wanted to do was make that back plate tighter, so that if you wanted to adjust the manometer so you could get your 0, 0 at the perfect level, which we do as mitigators, it's a little more difficult to do. So that, and the fact that we made it taller, or we made it hold 6 inches of pressure instead of 4, knowing the bigger fans were coming. I had Mr. Festa give me some insight on that. They hadn't been created yet, but he knew it was coming. So the fact that we made it 6 inches instead of 4, and the fact that we made it in 3 colors. So, but good question. The oil is a refrigeration oil, and we have MSDS sheets, but they're very safe. I occasionally get the question, is this oil safe? And yeah, it's very
You
safe.
could probably do a whole session on, when you put those YouTube manometers outside and they're exposed to sunlight, the dye loses its color, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of things you can do to try to avoid that. But what do you have to say about that?
Well, absolutely. I tell people a manometer's not made to be outside, and I've seen them outside my area full of bugs.
Yes.
Yeah, full of little gnats and little bugs. They're not made to be outside, but the people that do it, and I have customers that do it, buy a little electrical sub panel, X-Store rated plastic sub panel that's tall enough to put it in. And there's very few made tall enough for my manometer. So they end up spending $25 for the sub panel, $7.50 for the manometer, when you could buy a mini helic for not a whole bunch more than that. So I always tell people, look, if you've got them out outside, use a mini helic, because when you get down below 15 to 20 degrees, a mini helix no longer is accurate, but it doesn't hurt it. So in other words, the next time it warms up, its accuracy continues. But in my opinion, if it's 15 degrees, I don't know very many people are going to go out and check their manometer anyway. So the mini helix and the Magna helix, both of the helix are okay to use outdoors if you have to, but if a manometer is used as a consumer device for then it's not very valuable if it's outdoors. But you get into situations where you're like, what do I do? And I always tell people, if they have an all crawl space situation, put a T on the dang pipe and run a off that T, run a 2-foot piece up into your equipment room right next to the furnace, and put a cap on it, put your manometer on that. And
yeah, we end up with a lot of slab on grade houses that we end up putting stem wall systems in. So there's no section of the pipe that's actually inside the house at all.
Yes.
And we found that you got to be careful where you put the YouTube. You don't want to have it facing south, east, or west. You want to try to have it facing north, because the UV rays deteriorate the coloring in it. And then we also found that, believe it or not, your packages that you ship those in, if you use that package as an extra cover over the YouTube, and we've tested it, we put them out off of our building in the facing south in the direct sunlight, we can get that discoloring till we can let the coloring in the YouTube. It may last for 2 years before it really starts to go down. And we try to do an inspection on a system every 2 years anyway. So we encourage people to call us every 2 years. We come out, we retest, we inspect the whole system. Anything wrong with it, we'll fix it. Like if the YouTube is starting to lose its coloring, we'll just change the liquid even. But I like the mini helix idea. That's a good idea.
Right. And the mini helix, I've got some pictures that I send to people for examples, but we use them in all commercial jobs just to make it look more professional. But we go to Menards or Home Depot and we buy the gray outdoor electrical box. The little one is 4x4 that would hold, a dual outlet. But we buy the one that's 4-inch deep. And then we buy the blank cover plate that goes over it that has the rubber gasket. So in other words, this is a plastic gray outdoor box that is 4 inches by 4 inches by 4 inches deep. You can get it 2 or 4 inches deep. If you get the one that's 4 inches deep and you cut the right size hole in the face plate, your manometer mounts inside that box, and all you see is the manometer face on the face plate. And that's just a beautiful look, Jim. I'll send you a picture of one, and that wasn't my idea. I like to claim everybody else's idea, but I'm going to give credit to my customer, one of my customers in Georgia, that told me about that, and I go, holy cow! I jokingly said, that's a great idea. I'm going to take credit for that. But we've used that now for years because it truly works great. But those are all great questions, Jim. I appreciate the questions. So number 3, there's certainly some disagreement about this, but number 3 is critter guard. I'll tell you a little story about a critter guard. I'm a big believer in critter guard because I've dug, and we manufacture these, but I'm a big believer in about any size you could want, including Schedule 20 pipe and even commercial sizes. But I'm a big believer in it because I've dug too many dead squirrels out of them. And originally, when the squirrels and birds got so bad, especially squirrels, we think that squirrels and birds get interested in when it gets down to 0, but the air coming out of that pipe is still 50 degrees or so. So we think that's too tempting. And digging a dead squirrel out of a fan is so discouraging. So we started putting just a big long pole barn screw towards the top of the pipe, thinking, well, that's going to detract probably birds and squirrels. And I get called back to a house, and a squirrel had dropped walnuts down in the fan to make his stash before he went down. Well, he couldn't get down, but the walnuts did a job on the impeller. So I said, that's enough. I'm going to use critter guards. And this is a story from 20 years ago. But anyway, I'm a big believer in critter guards. But just as an example, my guy in North Carolina that called me this morning that I mentioned earlier, he says, Dave, I'm concerned that these storms are going to ruin some radon systems. The flooding was so bad, the tornadoes, the trees falling, and everything else. Should I be sort of a new guy? Should I be preparing and concerned about phone calls with radon systems that have suffered damage from the storm? And I said, well, it's a question that's tough. That's a storm of magnitude that I don't know that I can answer the question. I know that Mr. Festa is very good at making making warranties work. But I said, I don't have the answer to that question. He says, well, I use a critter guard on all of mine because you told me to when I got started. And I says, that might be what saves you over the next guy, because I can't imagine how much debris went down a radon pipe. Because remember, he said his customers had no power, and then they had splurges of power. And he said a particular customer he was speaking of had 30 hours of no power, but within that 30 hours, they had times when it would come on for a second, or and sometimes when those surges happen, I'm not sure they're the right voltage. But anyway, the point that that we discussed this morning was him using a critter guard may put him and will put him, I'm convinced it will put him in a much better position than most of his competitors that may not. So that was just a story that happened this morning that made me think, I put critter guards on my top 10 list because I'm a believer in them, but that's only 50% of the mitigators. There's certainly a 50% of the mitigators that have their reasons for not agreeing with me, but this is a good unique, it's a unique story though, but it is a good story of the value of a critter guard for him. So what's number 4? Oh, number 4, you'll love this. Ben, we sent you a link, but when we start doing radon mitigation, in my part of the country, if you don't dig 2 or 3, our minimum is 3 buckets of clay out of a hole. Core drill 5-inch hole, get me 3 buckets, take a picture of it, or don't come back is my mentality. And I'm really a nice guy to work for, but it was always, I want 3 5-gallon buckets. Well, you always use the same buckets to carry all your tools down with, or at least the same type of bucket. And I hated carrying them buckets full of wet clay up and down up the steps because the handles were uncomfortable. It wasn't long after that plastic grip on that handle was cracked and gone. Then the buckets would break, or the bucket handles would slip out of their little slots. And I've had horses for 20 years, and we have these buckets with a flat side that are so tough a horse can't even break it. And they hang on the wall to feed and water your horses. And one day, my wife, I was too dumb to think about it, but here I'd been in the business 20 years fighting these 5-gallon buckets. And my wife one day says, why in the heck don't you go to the farm store and buy some more of these flat-sided horse buckets? First of all, they'll never wear out. You're not going to break them. And secondly, when you carry them, they wrap around your calf instead of bruising your calf. And they're 4-gallon. I mean, so anyway, I said, you know what? You're a lot smarter than I am. Let me take a couple of these. I'll steal them from the horses and take a couple to work it. But I know you're right. Well, anyway, my daughter says, why don't you talk about how much more of an advantage this bucket is? We were always waiting for a drywaller to leave a bucket lay around so we could rinse it out and use it, or even going to Menards or Home Depot and buying buckets, which very inferior to the bucket you get at the farm store. I don't care what that bucket costs. It may cost 4 times as much, but it'll last 10 times as long and be. So,
David, I've got that link. I'm going to throw it up here on the screen.
Okay.
So,
I wish it showed the side of it, because the back side is flat, so that it would. So the back side's flat, so in an application of our horses, it fit against the wall real nice.
Yeah, let me see. I want to see. Can everybody see that on their screen there? They don't show multiple angles of it, but this is the one at Tractor Supply 5 gallon. This is 5 gallon flat back
Yeah,
general purpose. Let me
I
throw it
see
up
that.
on the
Yes, I see that. It comes in 4 and 5, and that's a
get the
great one.
right
And
one.
the handle may not look as comfortable as the plastic handle on the drywall bucket, I call it, but it's a thicker, heavier duty handle, and it is actually comfortable. And besides that, as we all know, the plastic handle on a drywall bucket doesn't last long. So I said, well, I'm going to throw something out there that was actually my idea, but it wasn't. It was my wife's. And I only had to use them drywall buckets for 20 years before I realized that the bucket I'd been using for horses for 40 years was far superior and never left a bruise or a scratch on my calf again. So there's the that's number what, number four,
That's number
and
4. I'm like,
yeah, and
those of you who are watching on Facebook and YouTube, I'm going to throw a link to it up there since it didn't get up there right.
okay. And as I told Ben, I had so much trouble coming up with 10 that I did some duels along with a bucket. We talked about getting a large amount of out of a hole to create a large suction pit. This is our auger. And that was another thing. When I got in the industry, I wasn't happy with the augers I was able to buy. They bent, they didn't last long. They seemed like they would break off in the chuck of the drill. I didn't like them. So I said, well, I can fix that. I'll find somebody that will make custom augers. So I found a company in Minnesota. I think they actually make these or something similar for trapping people. And I'm not a hunter or trapper. It's irrelevant. But I think these are used sometimes for traps, but it doesn't matter to me. But I found this guy and I said, can you make me that heavy duty auger? I mean, this thing's like 5 pounds, it seems like, but can you make me this heavy duty auger in 24-inch shank? I want a 24-inch shank. I don't want the short shanks, and I don't want something cheap enough to bend. And he said, yes. And I said, all right, send me 50. And I can tell you that even people that are non-customers call me for these augers. And then I try to make them customers, of course, because that's my job. But I sell these augers to people because I guess there's just no other. I don't believe there's any other auger out there anywhere near the superior quality that this one is. So I included buckets and augers as number four as a combination because because they are used together. So. Call me with questions, but this auger, once you buy one, you're hooked. So, any questions about the augers or the buckets? We got a lot of people watching today, don't we, Ben? Number five, I said caulk. It's also it's hi Jordan Dunn. I see that
Yeah.
I see a comment, love the buckets. And that's another thing. Once you use that auger, you'll never go back. But once you use this bucket and feel how easy it is to carry up and down the steps and how gentle it is on your calf, you're going to say, hey, them horse buckets are okay. And
Actually,
I'm
hey,
not,
David, looks like Thor may have a question.
yeah,
He said, can you use the bucket as a drop bucket?
not sure what you mean by drop bucket.
You want to jump on Thor and ask? We'll wait a minute for you.
He's muted.
Yeah, you're muted, Thor. If you want to unmute, it would be really great in Zoom if you could unmute people. I know you can mute people, but it'd be nice if you could. Probably be against privacy. Okay, never mind. I thought about it. That's a bad idea. We hear toilet flushing.
Yeah, there you
So,
go.
he said, can you use the drop bucket to suction to get the soil out of the hole?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's what we use to fill when we auger it out. But this thing is so versatile, you can use it for anything. And I'm telling you, a horse, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever seen one of horses broke. And horses a good 1,000 pounds, and I've been using with horses for 40 years, and I don't think I've ever seen one break. I just never thought of the application. As much as I hated those 5 gallon buckets, and never thought of the application, but I can tell you, my trailers were full of nothing but these, So good questions. Good
He also
questions.
asked if you've got covers that'll fit on top of that bucket. So there's your next manufacturing.
I don't think so. And that is one thing that's nice about some of the 5 gallon buckets now, where they've got the rim that provides the threads for the bucket to screw on. However, I can see some applications that could be used for both. I can see some
Yeah.
applications be used for both, but I will tell you, I would never carry another bucket if I still had the company. I would never carry a bucket of mud up a stairs again in a 5 gallon bucket.
Yeah, the Free Harbor freight bucket is not going to cut it.
Correct.
So
Correct. And it's
as
really
much as
bad when you're
this,
carrying that up the stairs and the handle slips out of the cheaper keeper that it has.
yeah.
The
I will
one in
say,
the
I
horse
mean, there's
bucket.
nothing to say that you couldn't, whittle down the size, use the same sumplid material and make one that's the size of that. We could make a 3D printed clamp, that would hold it down. Just clip it on
Man, you're
something.
coming up with too many ideas.
Yeah,
I don't know how many
I'll
more
have
things.
Max work on that. We'll do that for
Have
you.
the engineer work on that.
Yeah.
Number
Thor was saying, yes,
five.
I made covers to use a vacuum and make a drop bucket to draw soil up into the bucket. So he's actually
I
vacuuming it
I
into the
see.
bucket itself.
I see. So
Got it.
areas that have a lot of sand where you can vacuum it, good idea. We
Yeah.
typically just draw it out in the shop vac itself and then
Yeah.
dump it from the shop vac. So I understand the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. We're so used
Yeah.
to clay
Well,
that
in
it's
my
not
area,
coming
we
up.
are. We don't see that fine sand, but I do have enough customers that I hear about it.
Yeah. Must be
Uh,
nice.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Even though sand's not the ultimate thing either, river rock's nice.
There you go.
Um, So the next item, number five, was caulk. You can't do a job without caulk either. In different states, Illinois, for example, has some pretty tough caulk rules. You will caulk the wall floor joint. You will caulk the cracks, and they consider a saw cut joint as a crack. So Illinois is tough on it. They even require that on the passive. But so there's so many different types of caulk for so many applications. So just raise them up randomly. Silicone. We have two different kinds of silicone. Both do the same job, but one is very low odor and costs more, of course. But the value of silicone is considered a non-permanent caulk. We all know if you can get your finger underneath silicone, you can pull off 2 feet at a time. And so because silicone is considered I'm telling all you guys things you already know, but because silicone is considered a non-permanent caulk, it's the perfect caulk for a sump lid that is going to have to be removed, or different applications where you don't want it to be permanent. And then just randomly picking up the next one is polyurethane concrete caulk. And a lot of guys have gotten away from this, or guys use a combination of the different latex items, because this stuff here is messy. This stuff here smells, but it sure does seal concrete good. This 3300, we don't sell as much of it as we used to because of the alternatives being so much easier. But this is a caulk that will seal concrete, and it's polyurethane. So the polyurethane caulk, and I just brought four of the varieties. There's other varieties that we have. And then let's go to the other radon one. This tight bond radon sealant is the one that most people buy, and it's easier to work with. I don't think it's quite as effective, but we use it too because it will seal a crack, it will seal a wall floor joint. It is made for concrete, and it is lower odor and easier to work with. And I think it's a little less money than polyurethanes. Polyurethane's an expensive product. And then the fourth type of caulk I had is butyl. And I think most of us know that the barrier film manufacturers recommend butyl caulk for installation. And I've got gutters on my house that, holy cow, are 20 or 30 years old. I've lived in the same house for 48 years, Ben, you know that. But but they can take butyl caulk and seal the corner of a gutter where the long part meets where the gutter meets the corner piece, and 20 years later still not leaking. So there's a lot to be said for butyl caulk, and the film manufacturers, at least Durascrem, the one I carry, recommends this to stick it to the wall. And I have to agree with them. First of all, it's what they recommend. It's an inexpensive caulk, comparatively speaking. But secondly, I know the value of a butyl caulk in a gutter that's always wet and dirty. So it probably is the right caulk to advertise. So that was just four of the caulks, but we all know that you got to keep caulks on your truck too. And so I entered that as number 5. And what Ben really made me think this time with his suggestion. Number 6, I put clamps. And you can't run a radon system without clamping it to the wall or clamping it to the ceiling somewhere. You've got to run pipe. And so clamps become important too. And all of us know about plastic J hooks. I like the value of them because you don't have to do any measurements to figure fall. So if you're running a horizontal run, you can count holes. So if I got 3 holes showing below the floor joist, I want 4 at the next place I put a clamp. Or in other words, it's pretty valuable because it just snaps on, comes with the nails to nail it into the floor joist. It's just a valuable clamp for all of us to have. The plumbers use the heck out of them too. So that's one of the clamps that I think is the most widely used. Here's our second most popular clamp, and it's simply a 2-hole clamp. We call it a 2-holer, and it goes around the pipe, and then 2 screws mount it to whatever surface you want to mount it to. And then the most popular clamp we carry, we just buy by the pallet loads, is what we call the 1-holer. The electricians call it a mini, and there's a reason they call it a mini. The town it was created in was named Mini something, but anyway, at least that's what an electrician told me once. But this is called we call it a 1-holer, and I'll tell you what I like about a 1-holer. The guys that use the 2-holers don't like them because it's a little harder to line your pipe up vertically. But the thing a 1-holer does, because of this, keeps the pipe off of the siding. And I don't care whether you got vinyl siding, whether you got cement siding, whether you got some of the new sidings out there, having a pipe against the siding allows for more noise and vibration. And so we personally use the heck out of these 1-holers or these minis, opposed to the 2-holer on the exterior of a home. But 2-holers to us have a lot of value going up a wall, say in the basement and even on the ceilings. But anyway, these are our three most popular clamps: the J hook and the 2 metal clamps, the 1-holer and 2-holer. So once again, you can't drive your trailer to a job without some hangers. So I don't think that raises questions, but I thought it was a good item to include in the top 10. Anybody got any questions about the difference between 1-holer and 2-holer as far as their usage? All right, let me find what number 7 is. Oh, number 7 is sump lids. And I'm going to move back a little bit so you can see a few of them, but I counted before this started. This one's pre-drilled for a viewport, which we do. We'll pre-drill it for people. Most people prefer not to, so they can custom where they want that viewport to be. But we pre-drill them for the same price as not drilling them. But I think one of the points I want to make about us is, first of all, they come in clear or they come in the black material. A couple things about that is we make 19 different sizes or varieties, but we also custom make every day. We custom make sizes for people that have special needs. And once again, when I started, Jim, you might relate to this, but when I started in the radon industry, in my part of the country, in different parts of the country, sump basins are different sizes, but in my part of the country, every time I bought a 21-inch lid, I wished it was just a little bigger because I felt like whatever anchors I was using, which is which is another matter of choice and another matter of discussion. But whatever anchors I was using was too close to the edge of the concrete, and that hole I drilled wanted to split out. And so every time I ever installed a sump lid, I always wished it was a little bigger. So when I became a distributor, I thought, well, now here's another opportunity. I will create a sump lid that's an inch bigger and an eighth of an inch thicker. So now I made a sump lid that was a quarter inch thicker and an inch bigger than anything I'd ever been able to purchase. And because I made it in-house, I found, heck, I can sell it for the same price. And so another thing I'm really proud of is the fact that this is what comes from having years of experience. That lid is because all of the rules now, I think, including national rules, have these, it must hold X amount of weight. Illinois' rule did say it's got to hold a 165-pound person. Well, that's a tough one because if you screw it down long enough, it doesn't take much to hold that person. But anyway, there's a lot of emphasis on a sump lid being strong enough to hold a person. Well, I make my sump lid thicker. So it's a full quarter inch. This is our standard biggest selling one. But if you don't need a 22 inch, but you need a 24 inch, we got it. Here's the biggest one we keep. This is the biggest one we keep on the shelf, so to speak. That's not custom made. It's 28 inches. So we've all been in situations where we wish we had a 28 inch. So the point of the matter is, in my part of the country, we need sump lids on an awful lot of homes. I'd say 50% of them for sure. And it's funny because I spoke to Bruno in Utah a couple of weeks ago, talking to him about sump lids, and he says, I've never seen one, or not necessarily that. We don't have them. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I can't imagine how much easier my life would be if I didn't have to do a sump lid, because I always say sometimes that sump lid takes as long as building a radon system because of all the backup sumps and the different different ways you see sumps done. So it's not everybody that needs sump lids, but most people in central United States sure do. So that was number 7. That's number 7. Number 8 is, you guys have heard me talk about this 100 times, access ports. And so there's from Thor. I use Lexan 24 by 24 cut as needed, or just use the 24 by 24. Yes, and we have them on our shelf also, square and round, 24 by 24 by quarter inch. So good comment, Thor. Some states, Illinois is absolutely for sure. And as far as I can tell, my customers in Colorado and Minnesota are required to use access ports. But the national code now requires a minimum of 4-inch access port, but they don't have a lot of details on what that has to be or whatever. But when Illinois decided to rewrite their rules, they used to have access ports in there and decided to add them back in since the national code required it. And I was part of, or at least trying to participate in rewriting the rule book. And in one of the meetings, I said, here's my position. I don't care whether I sell a viewport to anybody, but you guys brag in the state of Illinois that you put consumers first, and they really do. Illinois is a great example. But today's generation doesn't have caulk guns. Most of them don't even have screwdrivers. And the last time I needed a caulk gun, I went all over the place and couldn't find one until I got to the horse barn. So why would you create an access port for people to check their sump that is so time consuming and meticulous to remove that nobody's going to remove it? If I had an access port that required a tube of caulk and a screwdriver, I wouldn't check my own sump. But because I have one in a gasket that's removable, goes right in this 18-inch hole. I've done this Ben's saying, how many times you got to do this, Dave? But I didn't necessarily bring this one, was pre-drilled for this, but since it's here, you got a gasket that goes right in an 18-inch lid. I'm holding it awkward. with a slide-in viewport that does not leak. Now, this new access port also says remove for inspection with a water-resistant label, remove for inspection. Then there's a line and it says reinstall after inspection. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty self-explaining for the consumer, the plumber, the neighbor next door that comes to bail somebody else at midnight, to bail somebody out at midnight. And I can tell you all kinds of stories where viewports have saved people's basements, and really even plumbers and builders that have made great compliments to us for providing a viewport for them to access. So Illinois is now requiring, with their new constitution that's coming out very shortly here, it must be a viewport that's minimum 4 inches, but must also be caulkless and toolless. And my guys in Colorado and my guys in Minnesota are seemingly kind of asking the same question, or seemingly looking for the same product. I don't know that their constitutions require it, but I'm going to tell you, I don't believe there's any purpose in an access port that requires a bunch of tools, because today's generation is not a tool using generation. So my number 8 was access
Hey,
port.
Dave,
Yes.
you might learn something next week when Jordan talks about his volcano drain, because it is a caulkless viewport in addition to being a one-way drain valve.
Yes. Yeah. I'd be glad to see his presentation.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good comment. All right. Number 9. Now we get to the things that I don't even have in my hands. Number 9 is underneath my notepad, is homeowner devices, both Coriniums and Radon Eyes. I was always a fan of Radon Eyes, but here's what I got to say about Radon Eyes and Coriniums. If I have a problem home, or if I have a commercial job, before I carry the tools down, I set them up. And these things are so good and so accurate that they start reading pretty quickly. And 12 hours later, I know success or failure. So if I'm in, just go residentially here, if I'm in a home that I'm like, this house has some quirks to it, I'm just not sure. Let me set my device up, whichever one it is. And I'm going to call the consumer tomorrow morning, and I'm going to say, hey, would you mind taking a look at the face of that and see if we had success or failure, whether we need to come back and make a new game plan? And not only does it give me information plus education, I'll talk a second about that, but not only does it give me information, I've told people over and over, you pass one of them out, to 90% chance, maybe a 70% chance, that consumer is going to say, this is really a neat device. What would it cost for me just to keep it? And so you make them a good deal on it, because their house is fixed. So they're not going to stare at those low numbers very long. They're going to loan it to their neighbor. They're going to take it to church and show it to a couple of their friends and loan it to them. They're going to say, I better check my sister's house. I better check my daughter's house. I better check my mom and dad's house. And pretty soon, one of those devices will get you 5 jobs every time. I've said that a million times till you're all sick of hearing it, but I'm here to speak about their other value, which, as another example, we just did an old hospital. This has been a year ago, 2 years ago. We did an old hospital that was built during World War II and built as a bomb shelter / hospital. And it's since been converted into Catholic social service offices. So it wasn't a hospital anymore, but they needed it fixed. Well, it had 10-foot steel beams every 15 feet as a bomb shelter with concrete ceilings. And it was an unbelievable situation. I even hired a core drilling company to do all my holes, at least the vertical ones, because it had 18-inch thick walls. And but anyway, we get in there and I'm like, well, in the first place, you can't start putting secondary suction points in this big building because you can't get through the beams. So you got to build it. There were 4 different spaces between the beams. Not to get too carried away here. The point of the matter is, the first thing I did was I took 7 Radon Eyes. And I put them the furthest point from where I was going to build my 4 systems. And So I went in there and I built 4 systems with the thinking I was going to have to add suction points, but it had no closets, it had no areas, it was all portable walls and desk. So any new suction points I was going to have to put in would be right next to somebody's desk, and I was hoping not to, but logic from my years past said you're going to have to do more suction points in this building. You know it's going to be nothing but hard clay, and sure enough, it was. But so we built the 4 systems with the radon eyes running, and then we went ahead and hooked them up, and they all had this dang Legend Extreme thing on it, Jim. We put this Legend Extreme on all 4 systems, came back the next morning, and every one of them was below 2 except one. And one was about 2.6 or 7. So I said, well, let's do a second suction point on the one that's above 2 and walk away. Well, the point of the matter is, you can do all the communication tests you want. If you're a believer in communication tests, so be it. I'm not as much. I think it's a great diagnostic tool, but it's not the Bible. The Bible is a Corinium or radon eye test machine. But anyway, there was no communication 10 feet from there. But anyway, nothing matters but the test. We tested this building and it made it. But the only thing that told us within 12 hours was that homeowner test device. And I keep telling guys, you call me every day. I get calls all day long with problem homes. What do you think I should do? Or let's talk about this. You mind taking a minute and talking to me? And I tell them, we talk about a lot of things, but I tell them, you need a device like this because you knew it was a possible problem home before you got there or immediately upon getting there. And this would help you. And look at what you learn. For instance, here's another example, Jim. You'll like this. Pre-COVID, the American Lung Association, I worked with them for a long time. They even got a very large grant, thousands and thousands of dollars of a grant from the EPA for some work that I did to promote the work I did. So I'd worked with them a long time, but they got a grant from the state to give all the health departments grant money each year to promote radon, give out free test kits, set up a booth at a trade show, whatever, put billboards up. So each health department in Illinois could get a grant. But in order to get that grant, they had to go to continuing education. So they had us do the continuing education each year for the health departments. And they sent seminars out saying, what do you guys want? What do you health departments want? And they all said the same thing. We're sick and tired of sitting in classrooms. We want on-the-job training. Okay. So, Jim, one of these days I'll have to tell you about what we did some of those years. But just to refer to this one year they decided they want us to do a home. And this home was a problem home. It had a dewatering system. Some people call them some other name, but it had a dewatering system that was open to the atmosphere. And it was an older home, no substrate material but clay. But anyway, they pick out this dang home to make it hard. And the health department people just walked around the whole job. They could watch the guy doing the roof. They could watch the guy drilling the hole. Didn't matter. The point of the matter is they set those all these devices, both professional and the radon eye Corinium type homeowner devices, set them up for 3 months before this presentation or this class that we gave. And within that 3 months, there were 3 times that house would have passed a real estate test. But it failed over 3 months at an 8.9. So what did we learn? What are these homeowner devices telling us? Now, that's professional devices too, but what are these homeowners devices telling us? Are they telling us that the fluctuation is more than we think? Are they telling us that some people are buying a house because that test was ran at the exact moment that was the best case scenario that house could be in? I thought it was interesting that this house has an 8.9. That's a reasonably high number for my family to live in. That's a high number. And had the test been ran at the right moment in time, it would have been proven that house was safe enough that it didn't need a mitigation system. So I'm not trying to get off track here, but I'm talking about homeowner devices and all we can learn from them, number one. But not only can we learn information that we should be taking quite serious, we can use them to help us do diagnostics and help our success. Because I live in it, we call our area the land of three holes, but I live in an area where success can be challenging, and I get customers from all over the nation calling me daily. Dave, you got a minute to talk about a house that I'm having a challenge with? And anyway, my number 9 item was, if I'm a mitigator and I don't have at least one of these homeowner devices, and I prefer two, so one of them can qualify or verify the other. If I don't have at least two of these, let's say, then I don't think I'm doing anything to help myself here. So that's why I included a homeowner test device. Now, a lot of my guys are also testers. You can't do that in Illinois theoretically, but a lot of my guys are also testers. And they say, "Oh, I just leave my device." And I'm like, "Well, you're leaving an awful expensive device there when there's a somewhere between $100 and $170 device that you can put in there and get accurate results in 12 hours, and then it's probably going to stay with that customer and get you 5 more jobs." And Jim, I'll tell you what I've told everybody else. As far as our director was concerned, he was a health physicist with a nuclear background from the submarines, so highly qualified, highly overqualified. But he said, "I believe you're the only, this can't be true." But he said, "I'll bet you're the only person in Illinois that is successful and doesn't do any real estate work." And he said that as an exaggeration, but we were the largest in downstate Illinois now, just barely. And it wasn't 5,000 jobs, don't get me wrong, but we were the largest in downstate Illinois and didn't do any real estate work, because I learned early in the game, if I have to have somebody tell me how to set my price, well, we won't get into that. But anyway, we decided to do concerned citizens only, but you have to develop a plan. And part of our plan over the years, along with having been and having building your reputation, was these homeowner devices. I mean, I could do a presentation. I even had the library, big library on the Illinois State campus, but it's a county library, talked into having them for checkout, just like a book. So you could go in there and check out a radon device, and something happened to stop that. And I think it might have had to do with COVID, or it might have had to do with the concern about recalibrating or resetting them. But anyway, it was a great idea. But the point of the matter is, you can learn a lot from them, and you can make money off of them. So that's why I included Radon I, Corinium. That's the two most popular. I was a big fan of Radon I as number 9. And then number 10, you guys are going to like. And in my opinion, number 10 was having someone to talk to. We're proud of the fact that we built a reasonably successful company here, even though our main competition are 3 manufacturers. And that's a challenge. If I'm a distributor of radon product, but I'm competing against everybody that makes fans, then you better have some kind of idea. But anyway, we've tried very hard and been very happy with our success. But one of our thoughts right in the beginning is, well, now look, David Smith, what do you have? You have a lot of years of experience in a very difficult area. Give every one of your customers your cell phone as soon as they become a customer, and promise them, if you get into a problem home or you have a question, here's my cell phone. And so that's how we build our business. But I'm including this as number 10 because I don't want anybody to get the wrong message. But the advantage I have over even people like Jim that have been around several years longer than I have is that I get to talk to people all over the nation. And most of the people that call me have a problem. And so my first statement to them was, "I'd be glad to be the ear that you talk to. But the rule is, as soon as you figure out what's successful based on our conversation or your own, I always tell people, trust your own gut feeling, but based on whatever it is that gets you success, you must call me back and tell me what the success was." Well, that gives me more information, I believe, than probably anybody in the nation, because I have a pretty strict system with people with questions or problems, I need to know the success so I can pass it on. And so I'm certainly no genius. I always qualify the phone calls by saying, if you think you're talking to someone that's never had a problem home, you need to call somebody else. Uh, but I think that number 10 was someone to talk to because a lot of things I hear, especially from the newer guys, I just got done with my class, but it didn't teach me how to do radon. So I watched your videos that Ben and I made years ago. I watched your videos. I'm trying to learn something, but I'm really nervous going to my first job. I'm not so sure I know how to do a radon job. So we talk them through them and walk them through them. But most of the calls I get, I tell them the first questions I ask them is, what's your manometer reading? What fan did you use? What's the details of the home itself? But I say, what do you think it needs to be? What do you think it needs? What do you think the problem is? What do you think's giving you this problem? What do you think the solution is? And I always tell them when they call me back with a success story, I always tell them, I didn't tell you how to fix it. You just didn't have anybody to talk to. You're the one that knew how to fix it. You told me how he's going to fix it, and it worked. So, but the bottom line is, I don't have anybody to talk to in this industry. I spent 28 years in this industry without one person to talk to. And I was good friends with the director of the program. He and I went to the very first class in 1998 together as far as Illinois licensing. But I didn't have anybody else to talk to, and he wasn't a mitigator. He was a he was a little bit above my level as a health scientist, health physicist. But I think that number 10 has to be that I offer personal service to anyone that wants to be a customer, wants to talk to me, and I'll do everything I can to help your success because your success and my success are the same damn thing. So that's it for me, Ben. That's the 10 things.
There's your 10, top 10. I challenged you to whittle it down to 10, and you only cheated a handful of times. So,
well, and Ben insisted I put number 10 in there about the personal service, and I said, you know what, Ben, I'll take that. So
I do think it's important. If you get stuck, I don't know how many people are like me who, they try something for 90 minutes or 2 hours, where if they would have, I'm a don't read the manual kind of guy. I'm going to try to figure it out until I am literally forced to read the manual. And it means that if I would have read the manual, it would have taken me 10 minutes, but I'm stubborn. So, save yourself some time, give David a call, and jump into these calls. Use the Facebook group to ask questions about, jobs and things. And that is what this is designed for. But yeah, I mean, if I certainly wanted David to go through some of those things that maybe not everybody's got, that 24-inch auger, right? Those things that you just don't know that anytime you can shave 10 minutes or 15 minutes off of a job, and you do that 5, 6, 7 times a week, you should have room to squeeze in another job. And especially if you're one crew, so having anything you can do to speed up the process when you're booked 4 weeks out, well, let's get you booked 3 weeks out and you're doing more jobs.
Very, very good point, Ben. That auger will 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there become so valuable when you're overbooked. And I guarantee you that auger will save you some time. And I included the auger in a bucket. I'm looking at number 4, and maybe those were the two most valuable. I don't know.
Yeah. Did it's Friday and I told David earlier, we were doing college visits. We went over to Purdue yesterday, so I'm on very little sleep. Did you mention your automatic caulk gun? Because I feel like that's a number one up there too.
I should have. Anybody without an automatic battery-powered caulk gun, they become a lot more popular. But we started using them. One of the first people that came out with them, the two first people that I knew of, was Milwaukee and Ryobi. So that Ryobi one was only $40.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you know what? I don't have much to lose. I'm going to try one of these things. And my guys, especially in crawl spaces, could almost get up and walk, hunched over and walk and run this thing and have a beautiful bead. It was just incredible, and no fatigue in their wrist and their arms. And so I said, well, I'll buy this Milwaukee one. And I love Milwaukee tools, don't get me wrong, but the Milwaukee one sat on the shelf for so many years. I took it home and put it in my barn in case I needed one at home, because that Ryobi one was just so handy. It just had the right flow, the right shut off speed. In other words, but I can tell you, an automatic caulk gun will save you as much time as a good auger. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
point, man.
and then your forearm isn't, four times as big as it should be. So,
And
doing that.
Thor had a question in the middle, Ben,
Yeah.
about I wish somebody would create a flexible auger. And I've spoke to Ben about this. I said if we could come up with an auger that had a U joint in the middle, so that it would be flexible and hug the bottom of that slab, it sure would be nice. But boy, I've never figured out how to do it. But I always say that, jokingly say, if I could remove a quarter of an inch from underneath a slab and I had a straw and a computer motor, I could go home. I'd have it cured. But you're absolutely right, Thor. We don't need deep suction pits. We need broad ones. But I will say that's why I like the 24-inch auger, and that's why I like the quality of this auger, because it doesn't fail in those applications.
Yeah. You need something that just goes down and then splits off and just starts spinning it around.
Yeah, yeah. And
But
someday somebody may create it, but it ain't going to
yeah,
be me.
yeah,
Maybe
no,
it'll be
no,
your
no.
son.
Yeah, right. All right. Anybody got any more questions? I gave number 11. It was the automatic caulk gun. So that you got a bonus one today.
Sure. Well, and one
Anything else?
comment, one comment, I think one of my customers from Alaska did ask the question, and there may be disagreements on this, but I want to hear the reasons. But did ask the question in a meeting that uh, would you guys consider putting fans in basements like we do in Alaska? And I was hoping he was on here, and he may be. But I wanted to see if he was satisfied with the reply from that meeting. I heard mixed views from the reply that was given to him. But he told me before the national conference that he was going to stand up in one of those meetings and say, "Why aren't you guys using fans in basements like us in Canada?" And I've spoke enough to know that uh, uh, there are some mixed views, but if they have a reason that they shouldn't be allowed, I want to know what it is. Uh, I also use the reasoning that if my grandson, who's a great soccer player, goes down in my basement, starts kicking that soccer ball when I'm not looking, do I want him to hit the radon fan or do I want him to hit the hot water heater flue? I'll take the radon fan any day and die 15 years later before I'll take the hot water flue and die that night. This world has decided furnace flues and hot water flues. Now, most of the modern ones are getting away from that, but they decided they were legal forever. And the guys in Alaska say boilers. Boilers have a lot of danger factors to them also. And they say, well, we just try to follow boiler rules, but what is it with these radon fans that they don't think they're not near as dangerous as a exhaust pipe on a hot water heater or a furnace, and not a boiler. So anyway, I was anxious to see, and maybe he'll be back on next week or be able to make the comment next week. But I was proud of him for standing up and asking the question, because in a lot of these meetings, it seems like you may have a question, but you don't have the courage, so to speak, to stand up and ask it, because it seems like a lot of these presentations to me were always presented in such a way that they weren't asking. Ben, you sit there and say, "Hey, you guys got comments? Ask a question." I think Thor asked a couple more, and we may have to
Yeah.
answer them next week. But we asked for questions. I don't know that I've been in any of them meetings where I felt like it was that atmosphere. I've never seen anyone in that meeting say, "Hey, there's some questions about the validity of putting fans in basements. I think we ought to talk about that." Bam. Uh, anyway, I'm anxious to hear
Yeah.
next week if we get a chance if we get a little side time to hear what the reply was and how his satisfaction rate was with the reply.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean the fact is I think we're going down a long road, but if we get the right people in the right and we can talk about it, getting fans into basements. Everybody's certainly got an opinion on it, but it's something we can talk about. Yeah, Thor. Let's throw that for next week because the question is about metal detectors locating sewer pipe. If anybody is using anything like that, throw it in the comments on Facebook. Throw it, email David or me this week because that's definitely Thor talked about using or putting his suction points close to the sewer lines, and obviously you want to not hit that sewer line. So if anybody's got some good advice on a good metal detector, yeah, this is the community. This is what we're trying to do. So
Yeah.
we're hitting right at 90 minutes here, guys. Thank you so much for being part of it. Do not forget, next week we got Jim Dunn and Jordan, and you guys are going to talk about the volcano drain. This is going to be something really or you'll be really interested in. They're going to go into a lot more detail and do some demonstrations and show that. So that's the volcano drain will be on next week. So this is the most. You've gotten 7 full days of notice of what we're talking about. And we'll cover a couple of these questions when we get started at the beginning too. So thank you guys so much for joining us this week. And have a good weekend. Go relax, enjoy the weather. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. And I agree with Ben. Everybody needs to have a good weekend.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.